This is the home of an 80-year-old woman who evacuated just in time before floodwaters rose above her ceiling. Family members behind me sit and wait with silhouettes that were made to honor their loved ones who they lost due to domestic violence.
These cows aren't just for milking. These girls are here to compete. And Ryan here is their biggest winner. Coaches are getting around this rule by inviting the prospects on unofficial visits. This way the girls can come see the university and coaches can talk to them without any limitations, giving them the chance to offer a scholarship. The Wounded Warrior Amputee softball team started in 2011. Since then, they have traveled to over 35 states and played in some of the best facilities in the nation, like the Yankee Stadium and Fenway Park. Gerald Dixon sat 3 games in the beginning of the season, but in the Tennessee game, he came back on fire, ready to earn his starting spot back, and that's exactly what he did. In the Florida game, he started and had 6 unassisted tackles, a sack, and an interception. The Gerald Dixon everyone knew was back and better than ever. The aftermath of the historic flooding has families hoping to restore a place they once called home. Restoration companies are working endlessly to restore the damages.
I don't know how many they're doing here in town, but I know they're running hard. 7 days a week, 8-10 hours a day.
Advana Clean is a restoration company out of Colombia, and Jelly and his crew have been working on this house for the past 2 weeks. This is the home of an 80-year-old woman who evacuated just in time before floodwaters rose above her ceiling. They have removed all of the drywall, but now seem to be having a problem getting the water out from under the house due to the ventilation and moisture barrier.
But you know, that was for moisture coming out the ground. We didn't know we was gonna be flooding and have moisture come over it.
They have to work as quickly as possible to dry out the house and spray mold killer.
We need to get everything, all these houses done, because the water don't need to sit here, cause diseases, you know.
The crew knows this is just the beginning of a long, hard journey, but they will not stop until they get this house back to the way it was before. After all, it's the least they can do for those who lost everything.
You know, we'll be here before daylight in the morning, and it's like a ghost town. It's sad.
Olivia Lawrence, Carolina News. The State House held the 18th annual Silent Witness Domestic Violence Ceremony. Families from around the state came to support their loved ones who lost their lives to domestic violence. Attorney General Alan Wilson, the top prosecutor in the state, hosted the event.
Horrible epidemic of domestic violence, and to recognize those friends and family they have left behind.
Family members behind me sit and wait with silhouettes that were made to honor their loved ones who they lost due to domestic violence. Shavita Garvin is supporting someone who was very special to her.
I lost my little brother. His name is Samuel Denzel Simmons. At the age of 24, he was stabbed by the mother of his child.
On September 27, 2014, Simmons' ex-girlfriend reportedly went through his cell phone, found text messages from another woman, and then stabbed him to death. He was the father of their 1-year-old son, Carter. Angela Garvin is Simmons' cousin who still relives the horrific day.
Young, 24 years of age, being taken away in such a tragic and dramatic way, it's really something that you never forget. I can remember exactly what I was doing when I got the call that morning.
Simmons' family has relied on each other to get through this tough time, but try to honor their loved one as much as possible.
I don't think you really get over it, but we have what most people don't have, and that's family support. So we just, stick together as we've always done, stay prayed up, continue to support each other. Now we're attending events like this.
Closure for the family is nearly impossible, but as Shavita stands on the State House steps along with others, you can sense the pride and honor they all have to speak out for those who are unable to do so for themselves. Olivia Lawrence, Carolina News. Softball in the SEC is known to be the best in the nation, but recruiting the best players is fierce. Coaches are now recruiting girls in 8th grade, but if they don't, they will lose the prospect to another top school. Recruiting this young is a huge gamble for coaches. Kennedy Clark is now a freshman from California and was recruited by the University of South Carolina when she was just 14.
And when I visited here, I fell in love. I love the atmosphere. And I mean, when you're that young, you don't really know. So I based it off a second home feeling.
Coach Calvin Beeman is the recruiting coordinator as well as hitting and outfield coach at USC. He recruited Kennedy 4 years ago.
The physical talent is still easy to evaluate. You do take into account how that athlete's going to mature as they go through puberty and, their body changes. So you start focusing on things that maybe a Major League Baseball scout would focus on.
At that age, coaches are unable to speak directly to the players, so they must work around the rules.
Doing more homework in terms of, a lot of conversations with their parents on the phone, as well as coaches, anyone and everybody, strength coaches, anybody you can find who knows that kid. You're trying to really get a feel for how they carry themselves.
The NCAA sets boundaries on communication for the coaches and prospects.
Technically, the rule is once they start September 1 of their junior year in high school. So that's when you can start calling the kids to recruit. That's when you can start having text messages with the kids as well.
Coaches are getting around this rule by inviting the prospects on unofficial visits. This way, the girls can come see the university and coaches can talk to them without any limitations, giving them the chance to offer a scholarship.
This is the recruiting class of 2018 and 2019. All of these girls verbally committed when they were in 8th or 9th grade. Junior captain Nikki Blue isn't too fond of this recruiting trend.
They don't know about college. They don't really know what they want to do with the rest of their life, and you're honestly just eyeing them.
USC built an $8 million stadium in order to all the best recruits. And when numerous colleges were pursuing Kennedy at 14, South Carolina impressed her enough to verbal commit.
And I just really thought about what's good for me.
It is a gamble, but recruiting girls like Kennedy is what they have to do in order to rise to the top of the SEC. Olivia Lawrence, Carolina News.
Hello and welcome to Carolina News. Today we bring coverage on international attacks and how the local community is responding. I'm Olivia Lawrence.
Good afternoon, thanks for joining.
Richland 2 District leaders held a news conference yesterday afternoon to pledge changes and ensure greater training for school resource officers in the future. Despite the recent terrorist attacks in Paris and around the world, the FBI is not worried about a potential attack. A new mega merger deal is in the works pending an antitrust review. Walgreens announced it is buying Rite Aid in a deal worth more than $17 billion. With this merger, the new company would combine the nation's second and third largest pharmacies, knocking CVS out of the #1 spot. Former U.S. intelligence research specialist Jonathan Pollard has been released from a U.S. prison after 30 years. Pollard was convicted of spying for Israel. Pollard and his then-wife were arrested in 1985 outside the Israeli embassy in Washington. Pollard pleaded guilty to selling U.S. intelligence secrets to Israel. Now 61, he faces 5 years on parole wearing an ankle monitoring device and is barred from leaving the U.S. His request to relocate to Israel to join his current wife. A group of funeral home employees from across the state came together Sunday to help stop violence in Columbia areas. But the way they did it may surprise you. Karami Sullivan has the story. Thanksgiving usually means the beginning of the holiday season. Here in Columbia, we have Vista Lights. Last night, thousands gathered on Gervais Street for the annual celebration. Amber Stanton went out to see what the event had to offer.
Different weather coming up, but at least we have a few more days before the rain hits us again.
Yeah, I'm excited for Halloween. Hopefully all them trick-or-treaters out there.
Well, that's all the time we have today. Thanks so much for being with us.
See you tomorrow. Have a great evening.